You know,
I just got out of high school. Frosty was a big guy, funky drummer too. He was cool.
he was just being considered.
Big top 10 record. I think Jerry talks Sly in it. I don't know, between Jerry and Freddie, I know Freddie was batting for me. You know.
Well, yeah, what happened too is
Sly
I
probably
went
said,
up
"This
there.
guy too young."
I was supposed to go check him out and talk to him, but I actually had a date with this beautiful French chick, and I said, you know, I don't want him to get the gig anyway. So I just said, nah, I couldn't find him. Wow. And I wanted Greg in the band anyway. I just remember going there, and people came in one at a time, and I hadn't seen Larry Graham in about 7 years. I met Larry Graham when he was 14, and I was 18. We played at the American Legion Hall in River City with a band called Al Lewis, and he played guitar and sang "Hi," and then I seen him at the rehearsal playing bass and singing "Low," you know, and so it was a whole different person. I was just thrilled meeting Cynthia, seeing not only a beautiful woman person, but a beautiful woman person trumpet player. You know, it was a very strong personality, but she was very shy and polite. And then, of course, Freddie, I knew Freddie, because he had amazed me before, you know, when I heard him play at a few gigs, and then I met him. He came to a gig I was playing in the Fillmore district, and we talked. I hadn't met Greg yet.
Yeah.
But,
so you guys met the first time at that very rehearsal?
Well, wait a minute.
No, we did.
We met.
But we never.
Wait, we're cousins. That's the early stuff. They said everybody was related.
So at this first rehearsal, what happened? You get Red on the drums, you get Red on the sax?
No, we actually talked more.
Yeah.
We did do a little play, but we talked quite a bit. We really discussed about the concept, about, you know, I mean, Sly was an intellect, you know, I mean, he was very focused on whatever he was doing at the time, and I mean, already he had produced some hit records, he had a popular radio show and all that, so, and he had already made a couple attempts at starting a band that didn't live up to,
Wrong chemistry.
yeah, it wasn't, so this night, he had already been through these experiences, you know, failures of the bands and all that, so he had already talked to Larry, talked to Jerry, Cynthia, everybody would, you know, but they hadn't got together to do any music yet. He had like picked everybody specifically, and you know, after being through a couple attempts at this, so I would probably venture to say this was an intellectual process that he had already been through. Had a concept, had a vision. So when we got together, it wasn't to sit down and jam first. We sat down and talked quite extensively about what we were going to do, and that included, you know, what we were going to do at first, and doing new music, and how we were going to do it, what we wanted to kind of represent, what the spirit of the whole thing was, and just by the sheer ingredient of, you know, we had black, white, male, female,
And elements of different kinds of music.
Yeah.
We were
Rock,
actually
funk,
billed
R&B.
as psychedelic rock, if you
Yeah.
remember. But we had elements of rock, elements of psychedelia, lots of funk.
blues, jazz,
Blues,
pop,
everything.
R&B.
They called us crazy then because of the way we dressed, the way we looked. Okay, we would dress wild. People would take on characters, or they would set up, at one point Greg was setting up sideways. Then,
Polka dots and
yeah,
furs
and then later on we got into more organized colors, but in the beginning we just looked crazy. Everybody said, well, you're an experimental band.
I remember rehearsing for a week from that
Yeah.
date, and then we started playing. Was it the Winchester? I think was the first.
Yeah,
gig,
we only
wasn't
had about 14 songs total.
This-
So we did greatest hits of set number 1, and we were kind of like asked to do some cover song stuff then. We didn't want to do them like the record. We weren't ever a cover band. However, we did some songs that we didn't write back then. But he would rearrange them so radically different. The beats that him and Greg came up with, like that beat, like we started rehearsing original songs, you know, stuff from the first album.
all on the whole new thing.
Yeah, the whole thing.
A fellow by the name of Rich Romanella, who owned a club called the Winchester Cathedral, which was out in the suburbs of San Francisco. We performed. He was actually our first manager, and we performed at the club. We started out there. We'd play, and we'd stay after, you know, they close at 1:30, 2 in the morning. We'd we'd go get something to eat, come back about 3:30, start rehearsing.
Till 6.
To
We
4,
rehearsed
5,
until
6
daylight,
o'clock.
Yeah.
Rehearse after hours.
Did the music feel that good? That seriously, you could be up to like 5 in the morning, just like rehearsing. No, you
Yeah.
can play tomorrow night. It was
Yeah,
just
and
like,
this wasn't about drugs or anything. This was about music.
It really wasn't, yeah.
wow.
If it was about drugs, we never would have done anything.
No, we
done.
wouldn't have accomplished what we did.
We, in the very beginning, the reason that we got as much accomplished as we did was just sheer busting ass, you know, and dragging ourselves home, and then feeling good on the way home because I knew it was the most innovative thing I'd ever been a part of, and I remember giving up my rented house and moving in with my in-laws and stuff because we weren't making enough money to really support
Yeah, there was
ourselves.
some sacrifice.
So I moved in with in-laws. I believed in it, and a lot of people in my family wouldn't talk to me until they saw us live on Ed Sullivan about a year later.